Really?
Yeah, it's about that time. All right, good morning. Welcome to the Can 7-Year-Olds Change the World presentation. Before we begin, please turn off your cell ringers or any other devices that make noise. If you are plugging in devices into wall outlets, keep in mind that people may be moving around during the session. Your devices may be damaged if someone runs into the cord, or they may be hurt. Fire regulations require that all session attendees have a chair. There's no standing in aisles or sitting on the floor. Please do not use chairs for your belongings if others are looking for a place to sit. We are at capacity, and unfortunately I've heard turn away a lot of people this morning. And that will happen in other sessions too. Don't shoot the messenger, it's hotel regulations. Act 48 will still be available at P&C as we have offered in the past. You'll be able to submit your Act 48 credit online via the evaluation process at the end of the session. I remind you about the process for logging in to evaluate the session, if applicable, earn Act 48 hours. And now I present to you Kelly Doherty and Sam Hafner. So take it away.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Samuel Hafner. This is Kelly Doherty. We both work in the Sutherland High School District. We are at Liberty Bell Elementary School, suburbs of Philadelphia, about 45 miles north outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Liberty Bell is a kindergarten through 3rd grade building, and today we'll start with sharing what our goals are. So we want to show you how to get started and effectively use service learning. So we are going to go at a good pace because sometimes we have presented before. This is our first time doing this presentation. But with other presentations, we find that we get going and then we don't get to the good stuff on showing you how to take this back and get started. So we want to make sure that we go at a good pace today and that there is time to show you and get you involved, to show you how you can take this back and start with baby steps and get it started in your own schools. So we do want to show you the techniques and incorporate project-based learning, inquiry, and tie that in with service learning, as well as how we're using student-created media to publish, share, and inspire. So we will be showing you examples. We'll be showing you how we place that foundation, and we change the culture in our school as well at the same time.
And we might even have time to get you to star in one of our movies.
So we will need some brave volunteers
we'll need
out
great
there.
volunteers. And we're only going to pick good listeners, of course. As Mr. Hafner said, I'm Kelly Doherty, and I have a confession to make. I have always wanted to do service learning, but I always felt very daunted by it. I always felt very overwhelmed how I could incorporate that and still meet standards, and how I would have time and how I would manage that. And I've been, I would see the wonderful things that other teachers would do, like Michael Sasko, who's the keynote on Wednesday, does incredible things with service learning. Jada Pugliese in Philadelphia does amazing 3D digital printing and makes prosthetic legs for dogs. Just incredible things. And I looked at that and like, how can I bring that in? And so I'm going to bring you into my journey. Mine's on a much smaller scale than that, but my 2nd graders are doing some neat things, and I want to show you how. So the first thing I want to do, I want to give you a little sneak peek into my classroom, into some of the things that Mr. Hafner has done, that Sam's done, so you can kind of see what this looks like.
I think this is going to be marshmallow gumball for Kyle. Maybe little fish. Marshmallow, like you do for marshmallows. We might need this one because some now.
Yeah, Lexi. Kind of like your song choice.
is service learning? Vanderbilt University's definition is a good one. A form of experiential education where learning occurs through a cycle of action and reflection as students seek to achieve real objectives for the community and a deeper understanding of the skills for themselves. And that's a marvelous definition, but what does that mean? The key takeaways that I want you to come away with is that service learning involves compassion and empathy. And 21st century learning, everyone from George Couros to Michael Soskell is saying that 21st century learners, our future citizens, need empathy in order to be innovators. And we're going to talk more about that. Another takeaway is the role of inquiry in service learning and making our kids problem finders, kids taking action. But one of the biggest parts of this is reflection. We know as humans that's such an important thing. How do you teach reflection to kids? How do you get kids to become able to reflect? And service learning is a way to do that. And of course, we already talked about PBL, and we'll be talking about that more as we go through.
All right, so one of the first things we had to do was have a shift in our culture within our students as well as our building and community. So several years ago, our school journeyed down the path of having a school-wide positive behavior program. And as we went to the trainings, and we had our committee, and we had community members and parents involved with that as well as staff, one of the things that you talk about is having those rewards. And there's some schools will have a school shop or a school store. They'll get things donated from the local Walmart, what have you, and that's fine. What we wanted to do, though, we wanted to turn it internally and make those rewards intrinsic. So before we even get to all the technology and the awesome things that Mrs. Doherty's class and some of our other students are doing, we had to shift our culture. So it started with our positive behavior program was called the Pride of Liberty Bell. We are the Liberty Bell Lions, so we decided to call it the Pride of Liberty Bell. And so that was the first building block of having intrinsic rewards and thinking outside of the gadgets and things that kids are used to getting or striving for. And then we started to turn those intrinsic rewards over to our annual reading challenge. So we have a reading challenge every spring that gets the kids motivated to read. And we had done the traditional things of popsicle parties, ice cream parties, all that, but then we decided to do, let's like the Pride of Liberty Bell, let's start thinking about intrinsic rewards. So one year, the local winners from, or the winners from each grade level in classes by reading books would get to go down and help at a local food pantry that we have. So we have Betty Lou's pantry in our community. And so during that whole time, we reached out to Betty Lou's pantry. What do you currently need right now? So they gave us a list of items that they needed, and so we were collecting all these items, and then those students at the end of our reading challenge not only got to deliver those food items, but then they got to fill orders. So we spent a morning at the food pantry and filling actual orders that people would be coming in to pick up later today. So the students got to see that they were making a difference and that they were looking outside their own world, their own lens, and seeing that there are issues even in their own community and how to problem solve and how to work together as a community and as a team. Then the following year, we decided for the reading challenge that we were going to raise money to help, through the water project, to help build a well to a community in Africa that, it was in South Sudan, and we shared with the students that, one of the things that we just take for granted here is the water, even in their own building. The students are always complaining about the water in the water fountains, what have you, but how people had to walk several miles each way to just scoop dirty water, and people are becoming sick and becoming, all kinds of issues with that. So we decided to, for our reading challenge, again, intrinsic rewards, and we were going to do something outside of traditional popsicle parties, ice cream parties, and all that. So we raised money for the water project, and you'll see that there was a picture earlier on, but we'll share some pictures at the end of it. We were able to raise enough money that the small little community of South Sudan has their own water pump now. And so again, the students were able to see that working together, looking outside their own lens and having some empathy, doing something good and making a difference. And so we have other various friendly challenges and competitions within the school, but we really come back to one of the themes in our culture in our building is that our rewards are intrinsic. We do have our occasional ice cream parties or popsicle parties, but a lot of times our rewards are intrinsic, and it has changed the culture of our building. Where students, going back to the Pride of Liberty Bell, students are recognizing the positive behaviors. So in the beginning, it was the adults that were recognizing it and praising the students. Now the culture has shifted in the building where the students are recognizing it and they're praising each other. So it has shifted that mindset of what can you do for me? What can we do for others? Whether it's internationally, nationally, or even locally in our own community.
Watching that evolution has been amazing. Just seeing the way the kids praise each other and celebrate each other's successes.
And real quickly, it has branched off into where we have an after-school program. It's Liberty Bell Supports You, so it's a local community service group with our K-3 students, as well as our annual Giving Tree program, where again we're helping students anonymously in our own building and families during various times of the school year. So that has set the foundation for some of these projects that you're going to see.
So George Couros has said that empathy is the characteristic where innovation begins. And why do these service learning projects? Well, we want citizens who have compassion and who show altruism. But even beyond that component, people can't innovate unless they can put themselves in the thoughts, feelings, and experiences of someone else. You can't fulfill a need or a want if you can't experience what that person is experiencing too. So innovation and empathy go hand in hand. It's one of the most important 21st century skills. And it folds so beautifully into project-based learning and inquiry. It gives those experiences a purpose. It empowers kids and teachers. You're working together on a project, the kids own it, and just the change that happens in your classroom. It gives a purpose, and we know how important that is for every lesson, for everything that we're teaching our kids. Being able to give an authentic purpose can drive that experience. And it connects students to their communities, their local ones, their state and national ones, and you can even connect to global communities. It pushes kids to be innovators. You can treat them like scientists and researchers, kids who have valuable things to offer and contribute to give solutions to help the world, no matter how small that world is. And it encourages kids, of course, to act and reflect.
And the second bullet is so underrated, so important that your students understand why they're doing what they're doing and that they understand the purpose, because then they really buy in. If you just throw it out there and they're really not sure, they have an idea what the cause is or what you're doing, but they really don't have a full understanding, you are not going to get that buy-in. So that second bullet is so important that the students understand why you're doing this, what the problem is, and that they understand the purpose, and then they will get the buy-in. And you'll be amazed how the kids will take off and how creative and how empathetic and how they come into the building and they want to dive right into this project because they want to help people or they want to help whatever you're working with.
And with that, with giving the purpose, if you do it through inquiry where the kids are coming up with the problems that they find and forming their groups, it automatically has that purpose and that buy-in because they're the ones that are driving it. Can it be manageable? Yes. I'm doing it on such a smaller scale than some of my colleagues. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to involve fundraising. Sometimes the purpose of service learning is actually education, whether it's educating members in your school community about an issue or taking that message out farther and reaching it out more. It can be varied in duration. Service learning can happen in one lesson. It can transpire over a week. It could be a month-long project. It could be a year-long project. And like I already said, different goals and purposes. You don't have to do a drive. You can keep it so much smaller. And you can fold those academic standards right into it, and you can back map into it. So your guided reading strategies, your math, your writing strategies that you're teaching all year long can be folded into this. And a lot of those displaced subjects that we have to struggle with sometimes fitting in, especially in primary, like science and social studies, which are vital, and that's what keeps the kids' interest. That's naturally folded into this. So when we're racing to fit in all of the literacy and the math, and we have those 15 minutes for science, which we know is sad, that's terrible, this automatically folds it right into it. And you can do that during your literacy block because you're using those other skills too. And you can squeeze it into center time. With the inquiry groups, you can have this set up so that kids are independently researching, and I'm going to show you some of that as we go farther into it. And of course that integrates with PBL. Okay. So I'm just going to tell you very quick some of the things that we've been doing just so you can see what it looks like in my classroom. Very quick, we joined the Global Gingerbread Project. Some of you might have heard of it. It's really cool. The kids make gingerbread communities of their own community. So our kids were from Coopersburg. They made Coopersburg out of gingerbread, but it was a really cool collaborative project. The kids had to work together, decide what was important, what wasn't important. There was a lot of great conversation. They worked together to build. At this time, during this time, our school district suffered a tragedy. We had a student in a sister school who had sadly passed away from cancer. And prior to her passing away, she had started and left a huge legacy in the community of a 10,000 plus toy drive. The whole community came together and did such just amazing things in her name, and that she had helped put together with her family. The way that the zoning is in our district, some of the kids in my second grade class were her neighbors and were very, very close to her, and her death was devastating to them. And they wanted to make a small difference. So the kids came up with on their own, as they were working through their grief, they came up with their own idea of tying in a fundraiser for Jillian Massey. That was our little girl. Her foundation that she contributed to was the Grace and Saves Foundation, which helps families of kids with pediatric cancer. So the kids thought that maybe what they could do is auction off their gingerbread houses to raise money for Grace and Saves. And that's what we ended up doing. We raised close to $400, just our class, which the kids were so proud of. And it's such a small little amount, right? Small. But to them, it was a huge thing. They left something, and it folded into social studies. It promoted empathy. We Skyped with a classroom in Kansas who had a rural community, and ours was suburban. So there was all this great learning that happened, and the service learning part folded into it almost seamlessly. And I'm going to show you how I did that, because we did it through an online auction, and I actually repurposed Class Dojo, and I'm going to show you later how I did that. There's some really great ready-made projects that we're doing right now, like the Philadelphia Zoo and Less project. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, if you've tried it. It's really cool.
This is available every year.
Yeah.
So if you just go to the Philadelphia Zoo website, you can find it, and I'll let you take it from there. But there's a different cause each year.
Yeah,
so
there's
it's available annually.
Yes, there's a bunch of different animals that you can research and find out how you can help. My class picked the Rodriguez bat. It's endangered. I'm not going to get into that whole story, but the kids researched it. They got to Skype with a zoologist from the Philadelphia Zoo. But the best thing about it was the inquiry that happened. The kids just took it on themselves. We used Google Classroom. The kids brainstormed 76 amazing questions to ask the zoologist, and they were fantastic, and they came from the kids reading. I had loaded videos and articles into Google Classroom. The kids read them, and then they asked questions like, well, why is there only one male bat in a group? And their questions were amazing. At the end of the session, the zoologist told my kids that they were some of the best questions he's ever encountered. And that, as an educator, just lit me up, because we know sometimes that's so hard to pull those questions, but I didn't do it. They did it because they were driven to help the bat, and they were invested in it, so they wanted to know everything they possibly could. And in that was the writing and the collaboration.
And a couple of years ago, a third grade classroom was doing the same project. They took on the challenge of finding solutions for the need for palm oil, and the jungles and the forests is just being destroyed in South America for that palm oil, and it's affecting the environment and the animals. What were the solutions? They had to come up with solutions to present to the zoo, and it was almost. And there were other schools that were competing against each other to come up with real world solutions to the environment, and they actually got a private trip down to the zoo because of that, because of their solution.
It's incredible. The Rodriguez bat's affected by climate change, so the kids are researching climate change and what they can do, what solutions they can come up with to influence that and to help the bat.
Did you pick the animal, or did the kids pick it?
They were interested in it, and we're going to pull it into issues with our local bats with white fungus disease. Even though that's not what's affecting the Rodriguez bat, the kids are so excited. But yeah, one of the things with the ELS project is the kids do pick which animal. And I did do a little guiding because I knew I wanted to fold it in white fungus disease, white fungus syndrome in. So I talked up the bat a lot. So they picked it, but I did a little guiding. Really quick, this is such a fun, and we're going to show you how to make these. This is really where that media, that student media comes in. All of these projects involve student-created media. My kids organically, we hold a lot of class meetings. They were feeling that there were issues on the playground, especially with exclusion. We have a rule, Paley, I think Elizabeth Paley, has that book, You Can't Say You Can't Play. My kids are all about that rule. That's a classroom rule. But they were talking about exclusion. And in our class meeting, it just organically happened that kids broke off and came up with tenets, different ideas of being a good buddy and not a bully. We made inquiry groups out of it, and the kids made basically like public service announcements with each one of the points, and wrote skits and plays on Google Docs, and then imported it into TouchCast, which I'll show you because there's a really cool teleprompter option with that. And the kids made their own videos. Okay, so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the tech stuff in just a little bit, but I can't stress enough how important the foundation and setup is. You can have all the knowledge of iMovie and TouchCast, but most of what happens is going to happen with how you set your classroom and how you set that culture. So what's absolutely essential to this is the idea of a supportive community of learners. And the best part, you don't have to wait until January, February, May to do this when you have that, when you have that sweet spot with your class and they're that strong community and they're cohesive. As long as you set some of this down, what's amazing is that service learning actually brings them even closer together. So when they're working on these projects and they have a focused purpose, they start coming together even more. So there's a lot of techniques you can use to create this collaborative classroom. One of the most important ones, and I have a class, I have a wonderful class, but I have a class with a lot of different needs, behavioral needs, and some kids that might be considered a bit challenging. But they add so much to the classroom. But how that works is, you set the tone. You love them. You see them as being valuable members of that community, and you pull it out like that, and your students will too. So effective class meetings, we hold them all the time. They're regular. They're part of what our culture is. And we have rules for those, safe things like not using kids' names when we talk about problems. And we make sure that we focus on solutions so the kids break off and get to talk about those. They're so routine now that whenever we have a classroom problem, we hold a class meeting and we come to consensus. Lunch bunches are a fabulous way to bring your kids together, especially if you have a rough group, a group that maybe there's some kids who aren't as cohesive, and we all have years where that happens. The way to make a lunch bunch effective, though, is don't bring all your needy kids in. What you want to do is you want to have one or two needy kids in with kids who already have those social skills down, because you know that we're already we're on that continual spectrum of where we're at socially. You want your kids that still have the skills to learn to get them from the modeling of the other kids, and then have a focused, like today in lunch bunch we're going to talk about asking questions. and kids contribute and they practice asking each other questions. Specific praise is huge when you're starting this out. I struggle with this sometimes. Mr. Hafner will tell you that I have a hard, in the beginning I was always like, that's great. Oh, you're so good. Oh, that's beautiful. But making that praise specific, when you raise your hand like that, it makes it so much easier for me to address the rest of the class and everybody gets heard. So by highlighting what specific behavior you want, and when you catch those kiddos, the ones that are a little bit tougher, and you use that specific praise and highlight that specific behavior to the whole class, it's reinforcing, but it also shows them exactly what your expectation is and what you want. Very quickly, classroom management systems like Class Dojo. Class Dojo can be used for very positive things if you use it positively. And with a smart board, one of the cool things is getting your kids to give each other Class Dojo points. And as you move through the year, being able to do that so that you can bring kids into your classroom management system so that they start noticing their buddies' behavior and celebrating those successes instead of being competitive. Because we know that in school, that feeling of competition creeps in, and that's a killer sometimes to these empathetic, collaborative projects. Student feedback, ask your kids for feedback. I've got a video, but I think we might just continue right on. Ask your kids for feedback after every new thing, after every session you do, and incorporate some of that feedback into your next lesson with it so that they can see that their words have value, that you value them, and that you actually listen and take in what they say. Fish bowling, I have to show you fish bowling because it's probably one of the most powerful game changers that I've done in my classroom. It's not mine. It's definitely Harvey Daniels. He came up with it. But what you do with fish bowling is you find kids in the room that are doing the right thing when they're working in groups. It's a powerful thing for creating groups. So you find kids that are doing the right thing in the room, and you teach your kids that when you say, okay, we're going to fish bowl, you bring all the other kids to stand around that group and to watch for about 30 seconds. And what they're doing when they're watching is they're looking to see what makes that group a group. How would I know that's a group if I walked into the classroom? What positive behaviors are they doing? So the kids stand around and watch, and then they give feedback. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, because if you teach this routine, you can do it, and your kids do it at the drop of the hat. They come over, they watch, they give their feedback, they go right back to their own groups, and they practice those strategies that they just saw. What's cool about it is it's a good modeling technique, but it's an amazing reinforcer and motivator. Every kid wants to be fish bowled. So they start showing that behavior that you want in the beginning just for that extrinsic reward of being fish bowled. And then finally it becomes something that's rewarding just to them. So I want to show you that very, very quickly.
He's actually saying. Yeah, because like a narrator is one who's saying the story.
So they're writing their Buddies Not Bullies plays right now.
I like how you use the word narrator, Riley.
Wait, this is how I spell narrator.
Let's see. That's really close, Riley. As long as you can read it, that's fine. You got a lot of the sounds.
Oops. Right.
That's my one who wants every word spelled correctly.
I
So
love
giving
the
that
teamwork.
little.
This might be a good fish bowling group, I'm thinking.
So the kids are all in their own groups right now. And you give time for the group to go back to what they were doing, because they get a little nervous at first when they all stand around. It's important for you to be quiet during this time. In the beginning when I would do this, I always wanted to point out behaviors and lead the students until I learned just to kind of close it and let them do it. He's ready. He's like, come on, Mrs. Doherty.
that would make us think that they're a group if we walked in? Lexi? They were whispering and using quiet voices. Good. Lexi? Oh, sorry. Lillian?
They were helping each other.
They were. I saw that too. Amelia?
They were using kind words.
They were. In fact, I saw Riley do a gesture that was very nice to Matthew. Did anybody else pick that up? Maybe it was from... That was earlier, but what did you see, Lexi?
I told him that he was trying to help Matthew.
Did you see him do something with his hand? I saw it. What was it that he did with his hand? Oh, Ava.
Thumbs up.
He gave a thumbs up. Yep. And those are all those nice, quiet, positive reinforcers to your partner that show that you're valuing their ideas. Good. Izzy. Yeah, they were looking at each other and giving eye contact.
We
Good
really
job.
focused on
Izzy.
eye contact.
They were listening to each other and paying attention to what and they were paying attention to what each other was saying.
Yep. Now Riley was typing at this point. You guys didn't get to see what I was seeing right beforehand. But even when Riley was typing, Matthew had his face towards the screen and was paying attention because it was Riley's turn to type. Brilliant. I'd like all of you to go back and try to show the same teamwork.
So then they go right back.
There's lots
and
of
they go
ways
right
to
back
show that
into
you
their
appreciate
groups.
your partner while still keeping your hands to yourself.
So Riley's hug is awesome, but I don't want the kids all, so without correcting Riley, I was able to reinforce to the kids, there's lots of ways to show appreciation to your partner without using hands. And then they just go right back, so it's not disruptive once you teach it. Okay. I'm going to go really fast through these. So we know that service projects can result from inquiry. They can also happen organically from those, and Mr. Hafner, you always talk about those teachable moments.
It seems like there's less and less time for teachable moments. This is the opportunity to take these moments now and build upon them.
It's awesome. And teaching kids to be problem finders helps you get those teachable moments. I'm going to talk a little bit about a really cool thinking routine called Tug of War. And we used that when the kids were reading a story in our, and Marla, she's my colleague, in our reading series. There was a article about the Fifth Avenue apartments in New York and the red-tailed hawks, pale male, the one red-tailed hawk that and his mate that had roosted above, and the residents were upset, the tenants were upset because there was carrion and droppings and everything else raining down. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but the kids were able to, they were just amazed by this. They could not understand how there could be any problem with having a red-tailed hawk nest on top of an apartment building. So it just came organically that we decided to brainstorm the pros and cons, which groups were involved, what their differing opinions were, and how they could come together and compromise. And I'm going to show you how the kids did that. Because those are those complex, multifaceted problems. The kids, the richer and more complex the problems are, the more the kids get that chance to collaborate, brainstorm, negotiate, and compromise. That problems aren't black and white. And when you're doing service learning, there's so many different sides and issues. And with empathy, that's the whole idea, that there's different viewpoints and trying to navigate that. So view your class as a think tank and emphasize that choice and purpose. One of the best ways to start getting your kids to think about how they can help and what they can do, and to ask those authentic questions, because my students used to really lack in this. And I know any of you who've attended my session, any of my sessions or our sessions before, know that I talk about how with inquiry, when I first started this process, even before service learning, I had taken a class and was so excited about inquiry. And I went to my classroom and I started documenting how many authentic questions my kids asked. And it was less than 1 an hour. And I did that. I had that class, I looped with that class. I was with them the previous year. So I couldn't even blame the previous teacher, because that was is me. So I wanted to change. I wanted to change how I taught. Starred Wonder Walls, you can do them you can do them concretely, or you can even do them virtually on Google Classroom. But with Wonder Walls, anytime the kids have a question, a thought, something that they wonder about, they write it on a Post-it and they slap it up on the Wonder Wall. And what happens is you start noticing patterns, and then through those patterns you can start to form inquiry groups, and those inquiry groups can lead to service learning. Okay. This is just some examples of my virtual Wonder Wall questions. But some of them are so fascinating. You know, why did Bethlehem steel stacks close? How are chemicals dangerous? How do birds fly? How do volcanoes explode? Why do people take cheetahs' land when cheetahs don't take people's land? So there's all these different questions that are coming up, and some of them can lead to a service project. And what you do then is it's the kids' questions, but you pick which ones that you want them to explore. But it's coming from them, so they take ownership over it. So we could take that cheetah one and start researching and then seeing what the different controversies and dilemmas are and see how we can get involved. But it can come organically from their questions. Okay, tug of war, told you about the red-tailed hawks. All that happens, the kids take Post-its. They write Post-its for both pros and cons. You stretch yarn across the board like a tug of war. They put their Post-its up there, and then they discuss which ones are the most weightiest, most of the weightiest points. So they're putting up here the points for each side, its point of view. And then they discuss it. Which side do they think has the weightiest points? Maybe they both do. And then they try to come up with answers to that and solutions. And I can show what that looks like, but I think that's a little, I want to make sure we get to what we need to get to. Chalk talk is another great one. The kids write on a big piece of paper, make sure it's absolutely silent. They're only writing, and then they're making ideas, they're circling things, they're drawing, connecting lines from one idea to another, and it's just what they're doing completely silently so that they can think. See, think, and wonder, I know a lot of people do. Okay, what's really important is for them to research authentically. Whatever service learning angle they're taking, they need to make sure you have a plethora, like a plethora of mixed media. This is where those heterogeneous groups are fantastic. They can use their guided reading strategies. You can pull video into here too, so that your struggling readers can collaborate with some of your highest readers, and the playing field is level. So if you provide a lot of video on their topics, you can load it into Google Classroom. But that levels the playing field a little bit, and we're going to actually be talking about that more in one of our later sessions. So you're going to encourage collaboration and choice. And I do want to show this, because with our buddies, not bullies, the kids had brainstormed the points, and this is what it looks like when they're choosing where they're going to go. Actually, I'm going to skip that. Go to the next one. Okay. Empowering students to make a difference with media. We're going to show you the videos and the digital books. They can be used as whole group, small group centers, or independent projects. These are so much fun to make. We're going to make some of these now. I just want to show you a little bit of an example for the gingerbread project. The kids very quickly made their own commercials for their parents to see what they were doing. These are all really rough, they're fast, they don't have to be beautiful, but the kids make them on their own. So I'm going to show you one quick one. I'll show you two.
Hello parents, we are doing a gingerbread community with a classic campus, and we are making an auction in honor of Julian Massey. The places save foundation raises money to help families pay for cancer treatment costs.
So they wrote their own scripts, they shot it themselves. And you can see with that, when that was on iMovie, the kids were looking down, they were reading off of their scripts. For our Buddies Not Bullies videos, I switched to TouchCast. Thanks to Mrs. Amanda Anderson in the back wave. She's our tech facilitator. She's amazing. But and I'm still learning this app, but I learned it enough that my kids can use it independently for what we need in centers. So now they write their scripts and they shoot them themselves in centers, and I don't have to do anything. There's a teleprompter. The kids write their scripts in Google Docs, and they can paste it, copy and paste it, and put it right into the teleprompter. And we're going to do this in a few minutes. So I'll show you what this one looks like, and you'll see the difference. Oh, they asked me to be in this, so so because I was in it, I had to work the controls.
Yeah, give her 15 minutes of recess instead of 30 minutes.
So if I'm looking at it,
From me, so I want it back.
Oh my, okay, well right now, girls, I just want you to stop.
so I'm not showing the whole thing because it's embarrassing. Oh, that's even worse. That's worse. That's worse. All right. So, but if you notice, did you see a difference in the way that the kids were looking at the camera? TouchCast is incredible, and I really want to do one now. So I'm going to show you how absolutely easy it is. So I'm going to do a quick switch and get this on my iPad, and I'm going to get you right on. I'm going to get right on to TouchCast. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And we're going to take some awesome volunteers, right, who can make a video with us. I know that murmuring is all about excitement. I just gotta pull it. Awesome. So, don't want that either. Okay, so when you open up the TouchCast, it looks like this. And all you have to do is go to from scratch. This is all I taught my kids because it's so easy. It's loading. Takes a second. Okay. So you have some controls down here. This is so beautifully easy. The first thing I always do with the kids is I automatically get the green screen going. So I go to, all you have to do is go to Effects. You're going to go to green screen. And I already preloaded a picture in my camera roll that we're going to use. So right here is for your photo album, your camera roll. You want to hit it? Yeah. Okay, so there's pre-made backgrounds which you can use, but if you go to the second tab, you'll see albums. And then just go to your camera roll and just pick that top one. Okay, now you're not going to see it here because you have to be in front of a green screen, but it saved it. It's in there. So now you can go to the next part. The next part that's so important is actually you're going to go to camera. You hit camera, and you're going to see this little thing that says teleprompt. This is the coolest feature of this, and this is how you wrap that writing and reading into this project. So hit teleprompt, please. And what you're going to see here, and it always shows up where the camera, wherever the camera lens is, the teleprompter always shows up next to it. So even if you have it switched, it will automatically go there. So when you're reading it, you're automatically looking at the camera. So this is the default. And all you have to do, now that you can type directly in here. You can have the kids type directly in here. I find this to be a little difficult. I'd rather have them type in Google Docs and then paste it in. So what I did already, all I'm going to do is go to my Google Docs. And I wrote a little skit for us. It's really amazing. I wrote it like a second grade. all butterfingers right now. I don't know. Let me try once more. Thank you so much for being so patient. And if not, I'll just write a quick thing in the teleprompter. But this is usually very, very easy. Isn't that nice? I promise when my kids have done it, it's been pretty, there we go. That's how it normally is, just like that. All right, so all I did was I simply copied it. I exit back out. I go back to TouchCast. I put it away from my face. And I hit teleprompt again. Oh, it's still there. And then all I do is I select edit. Can I actually, do you mind? Yep. You pick edit. And you're going to get this. This is where the kids actually can type in, but it's so much easier to cut and paste. And then you're just going to click in the box so that you get a little, yep. And then all you're going to do is you're going to paste. There you go. And so now the kids automatically will have this scroll when you start it. Now, what you want to do, because mine's second grade, you want to adjust that camera speed, or the teleprompting speed, I should say. Yeah. Now you can also manually scroll it. So when you saw me with the kids, that was one of our first projects, and those readers were a little bit of struggling readers. When you saw me staring in the camera, it's because I was using my finger and manually making this go slower. So you can stop it at any point. So should we try one? Well, let's first see how it looks with our green screen. You get extra points if they knock everything over.
The winner on that list.
Thank you so much. All right. Just get back to make sure the green screen is on. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, turn around.
Oh! All right, so we're not even gonna, hold on. Hold on, let me swap it. There we go.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay.
There it is.
There we go. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, so all we need now is a couple volunteers. I'm going to swap it anyway.
All right, there we go.
Oh!
All right.
That's awesome.
One more.
Come on.
Come on, we need one more. There we go. Thank you.
Amanda, may I borrow you for a second?
We're frozen in paradise.
You got it.
I think you're frozen.
Oh, you were awesome. Okay. So Amanda, my little swap button here is not cooperating.
You're trying to get it to face the other way.
Yeah.
Well, then you use the teleprompter.
No, because they keep it. They want it this way. Oh, no, we're good. Oh, yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. All right. So you can pop on in front. Just don't trip over the wire.
They're going 3, 2, 1, but it's not there. Huh.
All right. So let me just see something because it's not picking you up. So, me go back and open it back up. Same context. It's going to be a I'm wondering, Amanda, do you think it's because it's attached to this that it's not picking up?
No, I think you just hit the camera button. Hit the camera button on there.
Oh.
Wait, do you see that? Wait, that was earlier.
Oh, yeah. All right.
You turned off the camera, so you did. So now you gotta turn your teleprompter back on.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Okay. All right. All right. So what you can do is, yeah, I'm holding. Okay. And then I'm going to start recording. All right. So you might want to put your heads in a little bit. You can see. All right. Hi, we just met. Okay. Are you ready?
Are you A or B? Okay.
Okay. You were awesome. So we're going to just hit record. And it'll give you a countdown.
Action.
Wow, I can't believe we won the P&C vacation raffle.
Yeah, this is paradise.
Do you know what would make this paradise even better?
What could possibly make this beach better?
If there were tech sessions here.
You are so right.
Maybe P&C could be in Hawaii next February.
Then it wouldn't be the Pennsylvania Education and Technology Expo.
Yeah, but even the Wheel of Fortune goes on the road sometimes. Just saying.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. You are awesome. Now, the coolest thing is, your kids will not be nervous and bumbling like I am. So when your kids do it, they're going to do it seamlessly after you teach them. So my kids do this in centers all the time now. And I have like one tech coach, one kid that knows it really well, that the kids can go to when they're doing it independently. So they come out really well. The kids are so independent. They're doing the reading and the writing. And it comes out so cute. So you just name it and then you can export it and you're finished. Do you want to see it? No. Show it? Yes. Yeah, all right. I don't know if the sound's going to work or not, but we'll see. It's coming out of my iPad.
Then it wouldn't be the Pennsylvania Education and Technology Expo. Yeah.
Awesome. Big round of applause. That was fabulous. 5 minutes? Okay. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to come to we're going to